what if? What if the whole human race had nothing to do with the color of one's face, but everything to do with love? Wouldn't the world be a beautiful place? I grew up in the 1950s, 1960s, typical family of that era, Ozzie and Harriet type. Father worked, mother stayed at home, raised a slew of babies. I grew up in Lansing, Michigan, home to state government, Michigan State, and Oldsmobile. But it was also a town divided by color. And I grew up with my father and my father's father and two impressionable younger brothers, where it wasn't unusual to hear racial slurs, the N-word, jokes about the Ku Klux Klan, slavery, maybe a lynching. And I knew as a very little girl that it was wrong. I knew it was wrong. Yet, like my mother, who chose to be silent, and probably because a lot of women of that era, that was the way it was, I couldn't protest. Now, on the other side, my mother's mother, my grandma, never went past the 6th grade. Yet she was the most educated, wisest, most open person I've ever known. And my view of the world was so different from her. And I like to think that my future was shaped very much by her. One time when I was staying with her, as I spent a lot of weekends with Grandma, let's see if we can do this right, the issue of this magazine came, Life magazine, 1966. I was probably about 13. And had Barbara Streisand on the cover, but she opened it up and she started reading this article about Richard and Mildred Loving. And I will never forget her reaction. Now, Richard and Mildred Loving were referred to in the article as a white man and she a Negro. And they were married. And they lived right here in this beautiful state of Virginia. But they were arrested in the middle of the night and banished from here because what they had done was get married and it was illegal. So for 7 years, they fought for the right to be in love and to be married. So when this magazine article came, they were close to going to the Supreme Court, and I will never forget my grandmother just fuming, and she threw that magazine down, and she pointed her finger at me. She says, "Nancy, it's not going to happen in my lifetime, and it won't happen in your lifetime, but someday, the world will see each other, not by the color of their skin, but for the essence of who they are as human beings." That one statement shaped me as a human being. And I remember at that age deciding that someday with my own children, and perhaps with others, I would break the cycle of racism. So, I go on and I have 3 children. I become a single mom. And in fact, they were all really little when I became a single mom. They were 5, 3, and an infant. And when my youngest daughter, Heidi, started kindergarten, it was all new for me, so I was kind of surprised to see these enrollment cards where you had to fill in all the information, emergency, and so forth. But on that emergency card was a section where you had to fill in the child's race. White, black, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, and they had at that time a box that said other. Well, I'm looking at this, and I do not want my child to be referred to by anything other than, and this is how I filled it out. Now, just imagine this. I had 3 daughters that went through school. I did this until they were out of high school, and it drove the secretaries completely mad. Now, imagine this. My daughter Heidi, again, the oldest one, what's one thing that parents fear when they have a beautiful teenage daughter? They might get pregnant, and that's what happened. My daughter had a baby out of wedlock at the age of 19. Now, to society, that beautiful little baby, this great gift that was given to me, is to society considered biracial. But I cannot tell you how much I am in love with that little boy. He's been sort of like my this sage that just seems to say the most amazing things. And here he is at just almost 4 years old. His name is Tyler. Now, when Tyler was not quite 4, he said to me one day, with the most serious look on his face, "Grandma, am I a color?" Think about that. "Grandma, am I a color?" Tyler was not asking me what color his skin is. Tyler was asking me if he's literally a color. So I must have looked like a deer in headlights, and I said something that appeased him, and off he ran, and I could not get that out of my head, that someday people may judge him not by the character of who he is, but only by what we see on the outside. So his mother, Heidi, and I set out to find a way to be able to explain to him that who he really is not what we see on the outside. So here's how we answered that question. People call my dad black, like the dark night sky. They say my mom is white, like the clouds way up high. My mom and dad are different, yet very much the same. They have smiles on their faces and share the same last name. A part of each of them is deep inside of me, in my heart, in my soul, in ways I've learned to see. My dad, my mom, and me, black, white, and am I a color too? I think I'm just a person just like you. When I'm in a busy crowd, I see people from many places, a brightly colored rainbow of many different faces. I see brown, I see cream, I see black, I see white, I see eyes, I see smiles, I see dark, I see light. I'd like to find a word that fits me like a shoe. That's why I sometimes wonder, am I a color too? When I think of all those people, all those faces in my sight, if people are really colors, they must be more than black or white. And what Tyler learned through this process was that if people are really colors, now think about that, because there are people in this room that would refer to themselves as white and some would be referred to as black, correct? Or perhaps something else. If people are really colors, wouldn't there be more than black or white? So Tyler decided that because there must be many colors of people, that they all think and dream and see and smile and dance and sing and love and feel in every color. And here's what Tyler ultimately decided. I am a human being, not a color, not a word. I have my hopes and dreams and a voice that will be heard. My dad, my mom, and me, black, white, and am I a color too? No, my name is Tyler. I'm a person just like you. So Tyler, I believe, is this little teacher, at least for me, and hopefully for more people, because what he's teaching, what he taught with that one question, Grandma, am I a color? That we have got to stop looking at each other by the color of our skin. This is nothing new. And I believe that when we continue to say that someone is merely black or white, it does what? This? Or does it do this? When I speak in schools, children get it. Does it do this or does it do this? It continues to divide us. And I don't believe we should ever do that. Last summer, I moved into a little cottage. I call it the little thumbprint cottage of Traverse City, Michigan. I had fallen on a few hard times, and things had been a little rough, and I was able to move into this darling little place 1 block off the bay. And on this side of me is a gun shop. On this side was a cottage owned by the gun shop. Now, you know, last year, it was a historic time, presidential election. So you're probably not surprised to find out that I'm an Obama supporter. This is not a political speech, this is just to tell the story. So on this side, definitely not Obama, and definitely not Obama over here. And Tyler was with me all summer long. So my neighbors saw this little black boy who lives with me. The day after Obama was elected, I get a call from Tyler's mom, Heidi, because Tyler goes to school in Los Angeles. And she said, Tyler woke up this morning and said, I just feel a little bit more special today. Maybe that's because he shares the same cultural makeup with Obama. I think that's an amazing thing. Of course, I was excited too. And however, the 2 days after the election, I woke up to a newspaper article. This is what I saw in my newspaper. The inverted flag is an international signal for distress, and we feel our country is in distress because the N-word got in. Now imagine my elation being shot right down out of me. So for 2 solid days, all I could think about was, I'm living in between this, I just moved in, what am I dealing with? And I was outraged. Just like my grandmother who threw down that Life magazine, I was outraged. Then Saturday morning I woke up, and it occurred to me that if these kinds of things are going to happen, they need to surface so that we can heal racism. And then I thought, is it solving anything for me to be raging? And then I thought, what would Martin Luther King want me to do? And what would President-elect Obama want me to do? And as soon as I thought that, I marched right out my door and marched next door. The man next door is the one that hung the flag upside down. And there'd been protesters up and down the streets. It was in the newspapers, on the news. He'd been fired. And I decided that there was a better way. So I knocked on the door, and he stood there, and he just went as white as a ghost, seeing his next-door neighbor, the grandmother of a little black boy. And I said, I thought you might need a friend. And I hugged him. And for the next hour, I sat in his living room and discovered that the reason why this happened, it was a culture that was created in the place where he worked for 25 years. And he was fearful of losing his job. He also told me that he has 2 Korean cousins whom he loves dearly. His daughter is engaged to a man who's from India with very dark skin, and he truly isn't a racist. He reacted out of fear. I think we do that. A lot of us react out of fear. So in discovering this, there was this moment where we could find some commonality, that we both had people that we loved, and that there's reasons to find, to heal over this issue of racism. So not too long ago, about a couple months ago, a Louisiana justice of peace, you may have heard the story, refused to marry a white man or black man with a white woman because he was fearful that the interracial children from that marriage would have problems and would suffer. Well, we have a new leader in this land. I don't think he's suffered too much from that type of a union. And there's another little boy who I believe has not suffered and is doing just fine. And I'd like to introduce you to my grandson, Tyler. Tyler? What if we stopped looking at everybody by the color of their skin? What if we stopped judging? What if we could learn to forgive? What if, just what if, we could start to see human beings for the people that they really are on the inside? What if the whole human race had nothing to do with the color of one's face, but everything to do with love? Wouldn't the world be a beautiful place? Thank you.